What makes us human? Is it our language, our art, our sense of wonder at the stars? Or was it something far simpler, something sharp, heavy, and carved from stone? Imagine standing on the African savanna nearly 2.5 million years ago. The sun is merciless, predators stalk the tall grass, and survival hangs by the thinnest thread. Now imagine holding in your hand a rough, jagged stone flake. To us, it may seem primitive, almost laughably simple. But for our ancestors, this was not just a rock, it was the beginning of everything. A tool, a spark, a leap into a future where humans would no longer be bound by the limitations of flesh alone. Throughout history, the story of prehistoric humans has been written not in books or scrolls, but in tools. From the first chipped stones of early hominins to the bone needles that stitched furs in the Ice Age, to the spears that allowed Neanderthals to stand toe-to-toe with mammoths, each invention was a revolution. Each tool was a line in the blueprint of human evolution. But here lies the mystery. Why tools? Other creatures used sticks, rocks, even leaves to survive. Chimpanzees fish for termites with twigs. Crows bend wires to snatch food. Yet only humans turned this habit into destiny. Only humans transformed survival into innovation, crafting not just what was needed, but what was possible. Archaeology gives us clues. Shattered stones scatter the floors of ancient camps. Hand axes lie buried in forgotten caves. Obsidian blades gleam in prehistoric graves. These discoveries whisper of minds awakening, of intelligence stretching beyond instinct. And yet, questions remain. Were tools simply survival mechanisms, or were they the very engines that made us human? Did they shape our hands, our brains, our societies, even our imagination? Picture this: a small band of early humans huddled together at night, their stone knives glinting in the firelight. That knife is not just for cutting meat. It is a promise, a weapon against the hyena in the dark, a carving edge to shape wood into spears, a lifeline when hunger gnaws. And in that promise lies something profound, the idea that the future could be altered, crafted, forged. The story of tools is not just a story of survival. It is the story of transformation. Tools allowed us to hunt bigger prey, to travel farther, to build shelters against the storm. But they also rewired us. The very act of imagining a tool before it existed may have opened the door to imagination itself, to art, to ritual, to culture. In this video, we will journey deep into the forgotten chapters of human ingenuity. We will explore the first chipped stones, the obsidian blades sharper than modern scalpels, the bone harpoons that pierced the rivers of the Ice Age. We will uncover how prehistoric humans shaped their world, and how, in turn, those tools shaped them. The question is not just how our ancestors survived. The question is this: without tools, would we ever have become human? When we trace the long, winding road of human evolution, tools emerge not as background details, but as milestones, stone markers that reveal where we came from and how we became what we are today. To understand the true magnitude of these inventions, we must look not just at the tools themselves, but at the layers of earth in which they were found, the bones they lay beside, the ancient campsites they illuminate. Archaeology is less about finding treasures and more about listening to the whispers of time. The earliest evidence of tool use dates back roughly 2.6 million years in East Africa's Rift Valley. Here, scattered among the sediments, archaeologists uncovered crude stone flakes, part of what is known as the Oldowan toolkit. To the untrained eye, they look like broken rocks. But a closer look reveals something intentional: deliberate chipping to create a razor-sharp edge. With these, early hominins such as Homo habilis, whose very name means handyman, could cut through animal flesh, scrape hides, and crack open bones for marrow. This was no small feat. Access to rich marrow fats and meat may have fueled the growth of the human brain, setting us on a path of intelligence unmatched in the animal kingdom. A million years later, another leap came: the Acheulean hand axe, famously associated with Homo erectus. Unlike the quick flakes of the Oldowan, these axes were symmetrical, carefully shaped, and often crafted with astonishing skill. Some were so refined that they may have been as much about display and social signaling as about function. Imagine the message a perfectly symmetrical, palm-sized stone might send to others: I have patience, I have vision, I can control nature with my hands. In a world of danger, that was power. Archaeological sites like Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania or Kubifora in Kenya have become time capsules, preserving these ancient breakthroughs. Each layer of soil tells a story. Stone tools clustered around animal bones suggest butchery sites. Charred remains hint at fire-hardened spears. Wear patterns on stone edges reveal cutting, scraping, or drilling. The earth is a silent witness to the birth of technology. But the story does not end in Africa. As humans migrated, tools traveled and evolved. In Europe, Neanderthals crafted their own distinctive technology: the Mousterian toolkit, a collection of finely worked flint flakes, points, and scrapers. These were not clumsy rocks, but precise instruments, evidence of planning and foresight. Neanderthals, far from being brutish cavemen, were master craftsmen of stone. Their tools were versatile, adaptable, suitable for cutting hides, woodworking, and preparing food. One of the most fascinating archaeological finds comes from Schoningen, Germany, where 300,000-year-old wooden spears were discovered. Preserved in a peat bog, these spears show that early humans hunted not only with stone, but with carefully carved wood. Balanced, aerodynamic, and effective, they speak of cooperation, group hunting strategies, and an understanding of physics long before written language. Then came the Ice Age, and with it, even greater challenges. Surviving bitter cold required ingenuity beyond mere stone. In Siberia, bone and ivory were shaped into needles, some of the earliest evidence of sewing. With these, humans stitched furs into tight, insulating clothing, allowing them to endure conditions that would kill the unprepared. Archaeology here tells not only of survival, but of adaptation, creativity, and foresight. In France and Spain, the Upper Paleolithic caves, Lascaux, Chauveau, and Altamira, offer more than just breathtaking art. Alongside the paintings are tools: finely carved bone harpoons, spear throwers, and blades. The art and the tools together form a narrative. These people did not just survive, they imagined, they created, they symbolized. Their tools were extensions of both body and mind. It is worth pausing here to reflect. Every chipped stone, every carved spear, every bone needle represents more than its function. It represents thought. A tool is an idea made physical, a vision of something that did not exist until a human hand shaped it. This leap, from thought to creation, marks one of the defining thresholds of humanity. Archaeologists often debate what exactly these tools mean. Did they drive brain evolution, or were they merely the result of it? Was it the challenge of making tools that forced humans to develop language and teaching? After all, shaping an Acheulean hand axe requires not only skill, but demonstration, communication, perhaps even shared rituals of learning. Prehistoric human ingenuity. Tools that changed everything. Sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa push this narrative even further. Here, archaeologists found not only stone blades, but engraved pieces of ochre, evidence of symbolic thought dating back 75,000 years. Were tools the gateway to art? Did the act of shaping stone awaken the human capacity for imagination, for abstraction, for meaning beyond survival? The archaeological record cannot answer all these questions. It is fragmentary, scattered, often frustratingly incomplete. Yet each discovery adds a piece to the puzzle, showing us that tools were not incidental. They were transformative. They shaped not just what humans could do, but what humans could become. And as we move deeper into this story, we must ask, what were the pivotal tools that truly changed everything? Which inventions were turning points when humanity stepped out of the realm of mere survival and into the realm of destiny? That is where our journey now leads, to the core of human ingenuity, to the tools that altered not just the world around us, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. Let us travel back, far back, to a moment when one of our ancestors crouched by a riverbank, a lump of stone in their hand. They strike it against another rock, flakes flying, until at last a sharp edge emerges. That sharpness, born of accident and repetition, was the first revolution. The first edge, Oldowan toolkit. The Oldowan toolkit, dating back more than 2.5 million years, might appear unimpressive to us now. Rough flakes, cores, and hammerstones, simple to the point of being crude. But these tools were astonishing breakthroughs. With a sharp edge, early humans could slice through animal carcasses, reaching nutrient-rich marrow and meat that their teeth and nails could never access. Think of it. Before tools, our ancestors were scavengers at the mercy of predators. But with a flake of stone, they could strip a carcass clean, they could claim energy-dense food, they could survive. That edge of stone was not just about cutting, it was about climbing the ladder of the food chain. Archaeologists have found butchered animal bones with telltale cut marks near Oldowan sites like Gona in Ethiopia. Here, bones of antelope and even elephants bear the scratches of stone blades, revealing a world where humans began to alter nature to their advantage. It is no exaggeration to say that first flake set us on the path toward dominance. The Acheulean hand axe, the first masterpiece. Then came the Acheulean hand axe, a leap so profound that it endured for more than 1 million years. Shaped into almond-like forms, symmetrical and balanced, these hand axes were far more than mere tools. They were statements. Imagine a hunter gripping one of these stone marvels, its edge gleaming in the sun. With it, they could butcher animals, chop wood, dig roots. But many Acheulean axes were too large or too finely crafted to be practical. Some archaeologists believe they were social tools, symbols of skill, intelligence, or even attractiveness. A hand axe may have been an Ice Age calling card, proof that its maker was clever, capable, and worthy of survival. Sites like Saint Acheulean in France, which gave the tool its name, or Isilila in Tanzania, are littered with these artifacts. The sheer number suggests not just survival, but culture. Making a hand axe was not instinct, it was tradition, passed down, refined, perfected. The spear, extending the body. If the hand axe was an extension of the hand, the spear was an extension of the entire body. Around 400,000 years ago, humans and Neanderthals began shaping wooden shafts tipped with fire-hardened points or stone. At Schöningen, Germany, archaeologists discovered wooden spears so well-balanced that Olympic javelin throwers today would recognize their design. With spears, humans could hunt from a distance. No longer did survival mean risking teeth and claws in close combat. A mammoth could be felled with strategy, cooperation, and courage, rather than brute strength. The spear was more than a weapon. It was the birth of teamwork. Imagine hunters encircling a herd of horses, spears poised, each trusting the others to strike in unison. This was not just hunting, it was choreography. It was the emergence of trust, of roles, of society. The Neanderthal toolkits, a parallel brilliance. While Homo sapiens evolved in Africa, Neanderthals thrived in Ice Age Europe. Often portrayed as brutish, Neanderthals were in fact ingenious toolmakers. Their Mousterian toolkit, dominated by flint flakes, points, and scrapers, was versatile and efficient. In caves across France and Spain, evidence shows Neanderthals hunted large game, processed hides, and shaped wooden tools with precision. They were not imitators, they were innovators in their own right. Some of their tools revealed the use of adhesives, like birch tar, to bind stone to wood. This was chemistry long before the word existed. And yet, despite their brilliance, Neanderthals vanished around 40,000 years ago, leaving us with haunting questions. Did their tools fail them, or did ours surpass theirs? Did survival hinge on technology, or on something deeper? Language, trade, imagination. The Blade Revolution. Around 50,000 years ago, humans made another leap: stone blades. Unlike earlier flakes, blades were long, slender, and razor-sharp, able to be retouched into knives, scrapers, or spear points. Sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa show humans not only making blades, but also engraving ochre with abstract designs. Here, tools and art walked hand in hand. The blade allowed efficiency, more edge per stone, more tools from fewer materials. But it also hinted at something greater: the birth of planning, of foresight, of thinking in sequences. To create a blade, one had to envision the strike before it happened. This was no longer reactionary survival, this was imagination. Bone, antler, and ivory, the new materials. Stone was powerful but brittle. Around 30,000 years ago, humans began shaping bone, antler, and ivory into harpoons, needles, and spear throwers. In the frozen north, sewing needles were nothing less than life-saving. With them, Ice Age hunters stitched furs into tight clothing, shielding themselves from the merciless cold. Bone harpoons, sharp and flexible, allowed fishing in rivers and seas, expanding diets and territories. The spear thrower, or atlatl, multiplied human strength, sending projectiles farther and with greater force. For the first time, humans could strike prey from beyond the reach of danger. Each of these tools tells a story of adaptation. Faced with bitter cold, humans made clothing. Faced with scarce food, they fished. Faced with danger, they invented distance. Tools became not just survival instruments, but survival strategies. The invisible revolution: fire and glue. Not all tools were visible. Some were hidden in chemistry. Neanderthals, as mentioned, created tar adhesives by heating birch bark in low oxygen conditions, a process requiring control, patience, and experimentation. Humans, too, mastered fire, not just for warmth, but for hardening wooden spears, for cooking food to unlock nutrients, for altering the very materials they used. These were invisible revolutions, as vital as stone or bone. They revealed a new mindset, one that did not simply accept the world as it was, but transformed it into what it could be. The story of tools, then, is not just about objects. It is about minds in motion. From Oldowan flakes to Acheulean hand axes, from wooden spears to bone needles, each invention reflects a leap in thought, in imagination, in collaboration. We often say prehistoric humans survived because of tools, but perhaps it is more accurate to say they became human through tools. Tools shaped not only their hands and habits, but their very way of seeing the world. And yet, this story is far from simple. Some tools lasted 1,000,000 years unchanged, while others appeared suddenly, spreading like wildfire across continents. Why? Did invention spark in one place and spread through trade? Or did it arise independently in many minds across the earth? Was it necessity that drove invention, or curiosity, or even beauty? These are the mysteries we now turn to, as we continue our journey deeper into the enigma of human ingenuity. The story of prehistoric tools is not a straight line. It is a web, tangled with questions, contradictions, and mysteries. While archaeology offers us fragments of truth, it also forces us to wrestle with uncertainty. For every stone blade unearthed, there is a debate. For every bone harpoon discovered, there is a question. Why here and not there? Why then and not before? Why did tools sometimes remain unchanged for millennia? One of the great puzzles is the longevity of the Acheulean hand axe. From Africa to Europe, from 1.7 million to about 300,000 years ago, it endured almost unchanged. Imagine a technology lasting not for a century, not for 1,000 years, but for over 1,000,000 years. By comparison, the modern smartphone is barely 2 decades old. Why did humans cling to this tool for so long? Some scholars argue it was simply that effective. Others suggest it reflects limits in cognitive flexibility, that for early humans, innovation was slow, sporadic, and rare. Yet others point to cultural conservatism. Perhaps traditions held sway, and the old ways were preserved with reverence. But here lies the paradox. While hand axes dominated vast stretches of time, elsewhere, entirely new toolkits appeared, often abruptly, as if out of nowhere. The human revolution debate. Around 50,000 years ago, a wave of innovation swept across the world. Long blades, bone tools, symbolic art, personal ornaments. Archaeologists once called this the human revolution, suggesting a sudden cognitive leap. Sites like Blombos Cave in South Africa with engraved ochre, or Chevet Cave in France with breathtaking paintings, seemed to signal the dawn of true humanity. But was it truly a revolution, or are we simply blinded by gaps in the archaeological record? Evidence from Africa shows humans making symbolic markings as early as 75,000 years ago, and perhaps even earlier. Could it be that gradual sparks of innovation burned quietly for tens of thousands of years before igniting fully? Or was there indeed a dramatic shift, a tipping point where language, culture, and imagination intertwined, unleashing a flood of creativity? Neanderthals, equal partners or fallen rivals? For decades, the popular image of Neanderthals was one of inferiority, crude, slow, doomed to extinction in the face of Homo sapiens. Yet the more we uncover, the more that story falters. Neanderthals made glue, controlled fire, built shelters, and buried their dead. In Spain, pigments and shells hint at symbolic behavior. In France, evidence suggests Neanderthals used bird feathers as ornaments. Their Mousterian tools were precise, efficient, and versatile. So why did they vanish around 40,000 years ago? Did Homo sapiens outcompete them with superior technology, such as projectile weapons or wider trade networks? Or did interbreeding simply absorb them into our lineage? Today, traces of Neanderthal DNA live on in us, shaping our immune systems, even our skin and hair. Were they truly gone? Or do they still walk in us, hidden in our genes? The disappearance of the Neanderthals raises a haunting question. Is technological innovation always the decisive factor in survival? Or is it entwined with climate, chance, and even cooperation between groups? Independent invention or shared knowledge? Another mystery lies in the spread of ideas. Did tool innovations travel with migrating peoples? Or did different groups stumble upon them independently? Take the bow and arrow. Evidence from South Africa suggests bows were used as early as 64,000 years ago, yet they appear much later in Europe. Did the idea spread slowly across continents, or was it reinvented multiple times? The same question hovers over the discovery of agriculture, pottery, metallurgy, all later revolutions in human history. Tools, it seems, can leap like sparks between groups, or smolder quietly, waiting to ignite again. The environment was not a silent backdrop. It was an active player in shaping human ingenuity. During the Ice Age, the freezing climate demanded warm clothing, secure shelters, and effective hunting strategies. Bone needles and tailored furs were not luxuries, they were lifelines. By contrast, in tropical forests, survival required different tools: digging sticks for roots, containers for water, nets for small animals. Archaeological evidence shows that tools were always adapted to the world around them. Survival was not only intelligence, but about flexibility, the ability to innovate in the face of shifting challenges. Tools and the mind.
did they shape each other? Perhaps the most profound debate is whether tools were simply products of the human brain, or whether they actively reshaped the brain itself. Each strike of stone against stone required planning, precision, and memory. Each new tool demanded new skills to teach, to learn, to preserve across generations. Some neuroscientists argue that the act of making tools may have rewired our ancestors' brains, strengthening regions linked to language, imagination, and abstract thought. In other words, tools were not just things we made, they were things that made us. The questions that remain. Despite decades of excavation, the mysteries remain deep. Why did some populations innovate rapidly while others remained conservative? Did symbolic thought arise from tools, or did tools arise from symbolic thought? Were the tools of Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens truly different in effectiveness, or is that difference an illusion born of bias? And perhaps the deepest question of all, was the making of tools the moment we became human, or were tools simply one reflection of a humanity already stirring within us? Archaeology cannot yet provide final answers. Each new site, whether in the caves of South Africa, the steppes of Siberia, or the peat bogs of Germany, adds a fragment, a clue, a puzzle piece. Together they form a picture that is breathtaking, incomplete, and endlessly mysterious. And as we contemplate this, another layer of reflection emerges. These ancient tools, born in the dust of prehistory, still echo in the devices we hold today. The smartphone in your hand, the skyscraper above your city, the rockets that pierce the sky. All of them are descendants of that first stone flake struck by trembling hands by a riverbank. The line between then and now is thinner than we imagine, which leads us naturally to the next step. What can the ingenuity of prehistoric humans teach us about ourselves today? What reflections, what lessons can we draw from their struggle, their survival, their creativity?
It is easy to look at a chipped stone flake or a bone needle and see only the past, a primitive tool from a world long gone. But what if these artifacts are not only windows into history, but mirrors held up to us today? What if the ingenuity of prehistoric humans still has lessons for our survival, our creativity, and our future? Lesson 1. Ingenuity is born in crisis. Every leap in human evolution came from necessity. The first stone flakes were not crafted out of idle curiosity. They were born from hunger. The hand axe emerged not because it was fashionable, but because it allowed our ancestors to cut, dig, and defend. Bone needles appeared in the Ice Age because without them, the cold would have killed entire clans. Survival forced innovation. This truth echoes into our present world. When humanity faces crises, climate change, pandemics, resource scarcity, it is not despair that defines us, but invention. Just as prehistoric humans found ways to turn obstacles into opportunities, so too must we. Their lesson is clear. Limitations are not prisons, they are catalysts. Lesson 2. Tools are extensions of ourselves. A hand gripping a spear, a needle piercing fur, a hammerstone splitting bone. Every tool is an extension of the human body, amplifying strength, precision, or endurance. But more than that, tools are extensions of the mind. Today, the smartphone is no less a tool than the Acheulean axe. It extends our memory, our communication, our ability to connect across continents. A satellite orbiting the Earth is just a spear thrown farther than ever before. The lineage is unbroken. When we marvel at prehistoric tools, we are not marveling at alien objects. We are marveling at ourselves, at the continuity of human creativity across millions of years. To hold a stone flake in a museum is to shake hands with an ancestor across time, to recognize that their ingenuity still flows in our veins. Lesson 3. Innovation is collective. The spear was not thrown by one hunter alone, it was hurled in unison as a group encircled prey.
This sewing needle stitched not just furs, but the bonds of families huddled against the cold. Tools were never just about survival, they were about community. Modern science echoes this truth. Breakthroughs are rarely the work of a lone genius. They are the product of collaboration. Engineers, dreamers, builders, teachers. The earliest human tribes survived not because of individual brilliance, but because of shared knowledge. So, when we look back at prehistoric humans, we must remember that their greatest invention was not stone or fire, but cooperation. That remains our greatest tool today. Lesson 4. Simplicity can change everything. The Oldowan flake, one of the simplest tools ever made, changed the course of history. With nothing more than chipped stone, humans gained access to new food sources, fueling brain growth, driving social change, reshaping evolution itself. In a world obsessed with complexity, this is a profound reminder. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most transformative. A small idea, a minor shift, can ripple outward into revolutions. What is needed is not always sophistication, but clarity of vision. Lesson 5. Imagination is a tool too. Perhaps the greatest leap was not the hand axe or the spear, but the ability to imagine a tool before it existed. That act, seeing in the mind what was not yet real, is the root of art, science, and culture. When our ancestors carved ochre in Blombos Cave or painted mammoths on Lascau's walls, they were wielding imagination as a tool. They were declaring that survival was not enough, that humans sought meaning, beauty, and identity. We inherit that legacy. Every invention we create, every story we tell, every dream we pursue is built upon that first spark of imagination. In this way, prehistoric humans are not distant strangers, but the origin of our creativity. Lesson 6. Tools shape the future, for better or worse. There is a shadow side to this story. Tools give power, but power is double-edged. A spear can feed a family or kill a rival. Fire can warm a camp or consume a forest. The same ingenuity that allowed humans to thrive also allowed them to wage war, to dominate, to reshape the earth. And here lies a sobering truth. Every tool changes not just the world, but us. The smartphone rewires our brains. The factory reshaped societies. The nuclear bomb redefined what it means to live under the shadow of human invention. By looking back at the first stone flake, we are reminded to ask, what will the tools we create today make of us tomorrow? Will they bring survival and connection, or division and destruction? Reflection. We are still prehistoric. We like to imagine ourselves as far removed from our ancestors. We fly in airplanes, we build skyscrapers, we probe the stars. Yet, in the long span of time, we are still in the opening chapters of the human story. We are still prehistoric in the sense that our greatest chapters may yet lie ahead. The ingenuity that shaped flint into blades is the same ingenuity that shapes circuits into processors. The hands that struck sparks from stone are the same hands that launch rockets into the void. We are not separate from the humans of the Ice Age. We are them, extended, evolved, still driven by the same hunger to survive, to create, to imagine. So what do the tools of prehistory teach us? They tell us that humanity is not defined by what it has, but by what it makes. That every crisis is a forge for invention. That cooperation and imagination are as vital as fire and stone, and that the tools we build will, in turn, build us. As we hold our modern devices, as we shape artificial intelligence, as we dream of reaching Mars, we are still walking the same path our ancestors walked when they chipped stone by the riverbank. The difference is scale, not essence. And perhaps the greatest lesson is this: the future is not given, it is crafted. Just as the hand axe was shaped from rough stone, so too is our destiny shaped by the tools we choose to make today.
From the first chipped stones of the Oldowan to the delicate bone needles of the Ice Age, the story of prehistoric humans is not only a tale of survival, it is the tale of transformation. Tools were not just objects, they were turning points. They reshaped our diets, our societies, our minds, and even our bodies. They carried us from the vulnerable edges of the food chain to the architects of civilization. Think back to that riverbank, where an ancestor struck stone against stone, coaxing a sharp edge from raw rock. That act was small, but it changed everything. It opened a door that is never closed, the door to invention, to imagination, to possibility. From that moment forward, humans were no longer creatures who simply adapted to the world. We became creatures who reshaped it. Archaeology shows us fragments of this journey. A hand axe in the soil of St. Acheulean, spears in the bogs of Schoningen, ochre engravings in Blombos Cave, harpoons in frozen Siberia. Each discovery is a whisper from the past, reminding us that our hands, our minds, and our communities have always been our greatest tools. But the mystery remains. Did tools make us human, or were we already human when we made them? Were they the spark that ignited our imagination, or simply the reflection of a fire already burning within us? And if tools shaped our evolution once before, what are the tools we build today shaping us into now? The smartphone in your pocket, the machines in our cities, the algorithms guiding our choices, they are the direct descendants of stone flakes and bone needles. Just as those early tools defined who we became, so too will our modern inventions define what humanity becomes next. The question is not whether we will use them, it is whether we will wield them wisely. So as we close this journey into the ingenuity of our ancestors, let us reflect. Every great leap began with a simple act of creation. What we build today will echo for millennia, just as the first stone flake still echoes in us. Do we truly understand the weight of the tools we now hold in our hands? Or are we like our ancestors, only beginning to grasp what they might mean? The past has given us lessons, the present offers us choices, and the future, like a stone waiting to be struck, is still waiting to be shaped. If you've enjoyed this journey into the hidden story of human evolution, give this video a like, share it with others who wonder about our origins, and subscribe for more explorations into prehistory, archaeology, and the unsolved mysteries of humanity. And I leave you with one final question. Do tools shape humanity, or does humanity shape tools? Or is the truth that they shape each other endlessly into the unknown?